All right, let's get into a story closer to home for Drea. The NDP
Unfortunately.
government there is losing its marbles and doing exactly what totalitarians do in a time of crisis. Tell us about it.
Well, this is all too familiar of the start of the tyranny we saw in the COVID area. Vaughn Palmer with the Vancouver Sun is calling the NDP's power grab, the new proposed law, Bill 7, to be that it is going to give unprecedented power to Premier David Eby in the name of fighting Trump tariffs. So he says that it is more far reaching than anything we've seen since the War Measures Act, starting right here in British Columbia. So, Premier David Eby responded to the Trump tariff threat. Remember, threat. Thursday with legislation to allow the NDP cabinet to override all provincial laws, regulations, authorities, and even the legislature itself. It's very scary. In extraordinary times, we need extraordinary powers. Where have we heard this language before? Eby told the reporters. He's right about the powers in the bill being extraordinary. In 41 years of covering BC governments, Palmer says he's never seen anything like this before. So he says it would give the NDP cabinet the power to make regulations broadly, which is the term they use in the press release, supporting the economy of BC and Canada, which might well cover darn near anything. We're talking taxation, and they're using these cozy words like sustainability, and of course, really playing up the threat as the reason for the emergency that it is needed. We'll throw to a clip and then I want to talk a bit more, but here's Eby justifying it.
Premier, the last part of this bill seems to give you extraordinary powers to do a lot of different things without the legislature. And I'm wondering why you can't just do them through the legislature, keep it running, get it done. You've got a majority government. And when you say we're not going to be at the whim of one man at the White House, have we not set up a system here where the government's sort of at the whim of you, and that he's going to be signing executive orders in the Oval Office, and then we flip to you signing executive orders in the Premier's office, and two democratic systems are bypassed for leaders' orders?
Yeah, not at all, Rob. The bill actually requires these orders and council, these regulations, to come to the legislature, to be ratified by the legislature. It also, as a whole, sunsets within a 2-year period.
2 years.
The scenario
Yeah.
I want to invite people to consider is one in which the United States rips up the Columbia River Treaty and shuts off access to the common entitlement of electricity between Washington State and Canada. We will have to take some pretty dramatic
Yes.
actions in a
And
very
Trump
short period of
Ugh.
time. It's crucial that whatever the emergency is that the president incurs upon Canada in an effort to damage us, that we're able to respond quickly to minimize the damage. We see this as emergency legislation. This is not everyday legislation. This is not routine legislation. This is in an emergency situation where we need legislative authority. We need government authority to do something quickly to minimize damage to the economy, to people, in an unpredictable action from an unpredictable president.
Oh
Okay,
my
so
lord.
many things to say. First, he repeatedly refers to the threat of the tariffs from Trump and doesn't refer to China's active tariffs that are affecting our fishermen. Second, I heard you say it about
And farmers.
Ontario and farmers. Second, he mentions what Doug Ford did to the Americans. And Trump, if you saw what he said, he's like, they're affecting the electricity. Like, you can't do that. That affects lives. It could actually lead to people dying. And here he
Yeah.
is using something one of our own premiers did as worst case scenario. That hasn't happened from America, but instead happened from Canada to America, or was about to, as the example of why he needs these broad, sweeping powers to be bestowed upon him. After he said that, the Attorney General Nikki Sharma got up there, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry, it's not for long term. It's only until, like, I think she said May 24th or something like that, towards the end of May." Well, where have we heard that before? They're going to keep
2 weeks to
saying that
flatten the
there's an
curve.
emergency. Yeah, it's a 2-week thing. Like, I cannot believe this. And I hope Canadians, British Columbians are not going to fall from it anymore. And she says, don't worry, it's just till end of May. He just said it's 2 years. And in another part, he says it's going to be 4 years that we're going to have to deal with this because Trump's in power. This is insane. May I have permission to go a little bit conspiracy theorist on this? Dear editor in
All the
chief,
way.
Sheila Gunn-Reid.
Yes, all the way.
What if this is just the beginning of the pot about to be boiled? David Eby is just
Oh,
putting the water in so the frogs can get comfy with this language about this tariff threat being such an emergency, the big bad Trump, and we must go ahead and do this so that, more premiers start doing it. Eventually, Mark Carney does it.
oh, I think the pot is already simmering. It was simmering since 2020 when they used this exact same language to lock us in our houses over a disease that was not as bad as they said it was, and then force us into receiving medications we didn't want so that you could inoculate yourself against unemployment and depression. So, this is not just like we're putting water in the pot and we're putting the flame underneath. It's already there. Society is primed for this, and they already know now who they can control and who they can't. And they used language, a sunset clause. All that means is that by the time we hit the sunset clause, we have to renew.
Yeah,
So this could
that's
go on
it.
indefinitely. They're not putting a hard stop on this. She says till May, he says till 2 years, then they say till 4 years. But don't worry, there's a
Yeah.
sunset clause built in. All that sunset clause means is, well, we must go back and renew our emergency powers for the emergency before that time. That's all that means. It doesn't mean that's like the ripcord where this
Yeah.
ends. That's not it at all.
We've lived through this
Uh,
before. I got to give some credit to, I believe that was Rob Shaw who asked the question from Czech
mhm.
News. I'm certainly not a fan of Czech News, but that was an excellent question. He basically said, how are you any different than Trump? You're giving yourself all this power so you can act. I mean, this is going to have power over industries. Um, People could be compelled to do things that they don't want it to do. And of course, you have the opposition leader speaking out about it. Everybody is at least calling it for what it is immediately, which is not what we saw, of course, when this type of language first happened with COVID. So that's something,
Yeah,
I suppose.
yeah, and I said yesterday on the live stream, David Eby should check himself before he wrecks himself, because what you see happening right now with the Panama Canal and Trump saying like, look, the amount of force we use against Panama depends on how quickly they'll do what we want them to do. So
Hmm.
they want them to crack down on whatever China's up to down there.
Yeah.
But the point of it all is the Panama Canal was paid for by the Americans. And so they want to exert some control over it. And
Hmm.
the language they use is very specific. They basically say, we will use the military if Panama is uncooperative. Now, the reason this should be on David Eby's radar and he should quit running his mouth a little bit is because the Alaska Highway was built by the Americans, runs right through BC, supposed to connect Alaska to the lower 49, 48, I guess, if we take Hawaii out of the mix. They paid for it. And now David Eby is musing about not musing. He said he's going to bring in legislation to slap tariffs on American goods going through British Columbia. What do you think the
Yeah.
Americans are going to do if he does that? Look to Panama.
I'm going to have to flee to Alberta. But Elon Musk did come out and comment on this. He shared a clip of David Eby saying this with one word, saying crazy. Obviously, Rebel News is going to do what we do and tackle this. So I'm going to be doing a video and everything, but we've already got the petition set up if you want to go to the site right now and just jump on that. And that website is called StopEVsPowerGrab.com. Again, that's StopEVsPowerGrab.com. Sign that. We're going to get the petition out to the leaders. This needs to be voted down. It was introduced, so there's still a chance it could be voted down. But let's not forget how pretty Eby and the NDPs are sitting right now, right? So you had Eby basically give all of his MLAs a actually, yes, give all of his MLAs a raise even before they got to work for us, making it harder to make the right decision, especially if you're a soulless socialist. Then he gives them this long vacation. They just get into the legislature. This is one of the first things he does. But he didn't say this until just after he secured and made it official that partnership that he has with the Green Party. So they're really, opposition or not, I mean, it's pretty obvious you're going to
Yeah,
have
they're in
Rustad
chaos
conservatives
too.
and yeah, they're in chaos. You're going to have the Rustad conservatives and the true blue trio, as I've coined them, independents, obviously push against this. But the Green Party and those new highly paid MLAs with the NDP, it's not looking good.
Yeah, we've seen what the federal Green Party leader has to say about it. Like Liz May is like right off her rocker on Trump stuff, and it's weird because she's American. But that's okay. Like she was born in the United States, but whatever. Let's quickly finish up on two quick videos on this. We've got a video from Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly, who remains at Foreign Affairs, which is disappointing, saying Canada's sovereignty is not up for debate. And this is to Marco Rubio, who is in Canada right now for the G7 foreign ministers meetings in Quebec. So stop being so confrontational with the Americans. And she's done a terrible job on this. And it's only going to get worse because apparently Carney has confidence in her.
What I said to the secretary is Canada's sovereignty is not up to debate. Period. There's no argument. There's no conversation about it. There's no need to talk about it. You're here. You respect us. You respect our sovereignty. You're in our country. You respect our people. Period.
Unless you're an oligarch with the WEF, like it's just then our sovereignty doesn't matter at all. Like, what do you want me to sign? Like, geez.
Yeah, and they can just stop with this. Like, they don't respect our people. No, I get completely that the Trump administration does not respect the yahoos currently occupying cabinet posts in Ottawa. I get that. I don't respect them either. We saw how Howard Lutnick talked about Doug Ford also the other day. Some guy in Ottawa is what he called him. There's zero respect headed towards the Liberals out of the Trump administration. Completely get that. But don't lump me in with the rest of them, Melanie Joly. I think Trump loves us. Trump loves us and respects us in a way that the Liberals never have. So don't say you'll respect our people. I feel like the Trump administration respects us just fine. I don't like this idea that they're the great defenders.
Well, they certainly haven't been for years now, but I think that Trump is definitely America first. And so to the degree he cares about us, I'm not sure. It's America first, and that's the way it should be. But you're right. He gives us more respect and then calls out the crap that we needed to be called out. For example, naming BC as one of the worst offenders when it comes to the border crisis because of the fentanyl. He's calling it like it is, whereas you have the people in our own country not calling out what matters, like the carbon tax going up on the 19th. It's all this threats of tariffs on April 1st.
Oh, hi, it's Ezra Levant here in Toronto with an important message because we need your help. Independent journalism in Canada is under attack. Government censors, big tech deplatformers, and the dying legacy media are all working together to maintain exclusive control on the information you receive. They don't want you to hear other voices like ours, and they really don't want you to be informed and to think for yourself. That's why the work we do here at Rebel News is so important. Our on-the-ground reporting, independent news shows, and special content you won't find anywhere else. It's all designed to give you trustworthy information and alternative viewpoints so you can decide for yourself. We don't get government money, and we are not owned by some big global conglomerate. We're funded by people just like you, so please support independent journalism and help us continue our work by subscribing and becoming a Rebel News Plus member today, right here on the page. Go to rebelnewsplus.com.